Okay, so yesterday we talked about the rubric. You were here yesterday, right? Okay, so we talked about how, depending on how many times you cite textual evidence and how many times you're explaining and how well you're doing explaining how Harriet Tubman helped the slaves get to freedom or how the Underground Railroad helped the slaves get to freedom, then we use the rubric to determine your score. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at your writing and I'm going to have you read it out loud. While you're reading, I'm going to be listening for times that you actually said, the text said, or in the text it stated that, okay? I'm also going to listen for those times when you're actually explaining how Harriet Tubman helped the slaves get to freedom, or how the Underground Railroad actually helped the slaves get to freedom, okay? Okay, so right here is part A, and I see where you listed, it said create a list or a graphic organizer, and you made a list, so good. List of facts from the articles, and then our focus is going to be on your actual essay. Okay, so I'd like you to go ahead and start reading out loud.
Harriet Tubman.
Loud.
Harriet Tubman was determined and helped free slaves through the Underground Railroad. In the article number 2 states, the Underground Railroad was a system of routes and safe houses set up by people who believed slavery was wrong. These routes were led by a conductor, such as Harriet Tubman. The text states that Harriet Tubman was wanted for $12,000 because she was like so-called Moses and helped a bunch of slaves run away. She, as well as many other slaves, used the Underground Railroad to help with their trip. There were people who helped slaves hide, feed them, and even give them money. The text also states they threw caution to the wind, knowing helping a slave can lead to prison or death. All these brave slaves and helpers help form our history today. Even though the Underground Railroad ended in 1865 after the Civil War, people still remember it till this day.
Okay, great. All right, so what we want to do is we want to go back in and actually look at those places where you said the text states. And we're going to draw a box around them just so we can keep track. Okay, so let's go through and find the first place where you're saying something about the text or the article.
The article number 2.
Okay, so right here in the article number 2 states the Underground Railroad was a system of routes and safe houses set up by people who believed slavery was wrong. Okay, so now where's the next place where you're citing the textual evidence? Okay, great. So another place, the text states that Harriet Tubman was wanted for $12,000 because she was like so-called Moses and helped a bunch of okay. Now, is there another place where you said the text states? Shh. Okay, so right there, the text also states, knowingly helping a slave can lead to prison or death, I think. Okay.
Okay, I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, is there anywhere else?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we've got those 3 places where you're actually referring back to the text. So now let's look through here and find the places where you're really explaining how it helped the slaves, how Harriet Tubman or how the Underground Railroad actually helped the slaves.
Would this be, or that's just opinion? Like this part, the system of routes.
Okay, so you've got in article number 2, the article number 2 states the Underground Railroad was a system of routes and safe houses set up by people who believed slavery was wrong.
Routes and stuff. Well, that's just what was on the map, so not really explaining.
So it's telling what the Underground Railroad is, but it's not really explaining how that helped the slaves get to freedom. Okay, so we won't underline that part. Okay, so
These routes were not all conducted. Were people who helped slaves I didn't even put it yet.
I think you're right on that part. Shh. This part says, okay, she, as well as many other slaves, used the Underground Railroad to help with their trip. Okay, there were people who helped slaves hide, fed them, and even gave them money. And so in that respect, now what we're talking about is basically people who were somewhere in the route of the Underground Railroad. I mean, they are the Underground Railroad. And they hid the slaves, they fed the slaves, they gave them money. So I agree that that is a place where we have evidence of how they helped, by feeding them, by hiding them, by giving them money. Okay? So I'm just gonna put a little number, even though we underlined it, I'm just gonna put a little number 1, because that's really a 1 of how. Okay? So we're here.
Precaution to the women helping a slave can lead to prison or death. This person. Wow, only put 1. My God.
Oh, in all of that wonderful writing, there's only one place where you're actually explaining how the Underground Railroad helped the slaves get to freedom. And you didn't reference the text there by saying, see here on the next line you said the text also states, and then you told they threw caution to the wind, knowingly helping the slave can lead to prison or death. And while that's true, that does not show how. Okay, so what are we going to do to improve this?
Read this part and actually try to oh my God. Okay, I'm going to try to add like
Incorporate.
incorporate in. See, if I remember a word, I'll forget.
Okay.
Incorporate.
Look at me. Incorporate. There's an R.
Incorporate. Okay.
Perfect.
Incorporate. Like what they're asking, like how, try to explain how, and actually look at it and not just add stuff.
Good. Okay. And just like you did in these 3 places, you also want this kind of words. In the article, the text states, the text also states, so that's good, but you want to connect that with the hows that you find. So what you're going to do is you're going to read back over this, and you're going to read back over this, and you can write on this. Actually underline the places that explain how it helped. I think I remember somewhere in here where it talks about people being hidden in manure and having to breathe through a straw. Yeah, and that would be a good explanation of how the Harriet Tubman, or how the Underground Railroad actually helped the slaves get to freedom, because they were hiding. Okay? So on a separate sheet of paper. Are there any questions for me? Okay.
So you want me to underline?
I think it would be helpful. It's only for you. You don't even have to do it, but that's what I would have to do for myself. I would read it over again, and everywhere I found evidence of how it helped the slaves, really helped, I would mark it.
And then, so on another sheet of paper, I'm going to rewrite
Write it. entirely over, yes.
So is that what I'm going to be, or this is still my final grade?
This is already graded, but the revision that you're doing, that's a summative grade. That's going to be a completely separate grade. So it's like you get a chance to do it again for a good grade.
Okay.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.